Here over at Subscribestar. So comics is not paying like it used to. Surprised Pikachu face. Hashtag comics broke me and the attendant cringe. So why the SJWs think the way they do, their inability to comprehend that their point of view might be wrong or at least not applicable to other people. Yeah, I know Zach did a video on this, which is kind of what got my attention because he focused specifically on comics and page rates and Marvel versus DC and indie stuff. But I want to open it up to the why, the philosophy of the SJW. Why they think they have this need to force you to consume this narrative that you think is disgusting or at least not worth spending $4 on. What happened? Well, 5 odd years ago, I think comics roughly got traction at that time because mainstream comics were so soy and cringy and misandrist and anti-white and anti-nation and Christian and everything was just cringy. That's like, what does woke mean, you bigot? That's the woke's an umbrella term. It means all those things I just mentioned. It just means things in that direction. Stuff that woke means not going to sell these comics anymore. That's what woke means. Woke means it's not worth $4. That's what woke means. You know what anti-woke means? Anti-woke means somebody will go to Indiegogo and Kickstarter and pay $30. That's the difference. That's the juxtaposition between woke and anti-woke. They're not even willing to spend $4 for your Ms. Marvel comic. That such a well-loved character that gets canceled every year. Anyway, so I think it was 5 years old with Comicsgate. The mainstream stuff is so bad that it made it possible for an alternative business of Jawbreakers, Ironsights, and Cyberfrog to jump up and break into the indie market. Those are the first three, and they did amazing for indie campaigns. I think those first three probably did over $1 million in total sales, and the mainstream absolutely pooped themselves because people were willing to pay a premium to buy these Hugo Boss comics about like a GI Joe type of comic thing and a cybernetic frog. It's literally the Austrian Corporal comics. Anyway, so fast forward 5 years, and Twitter is finally coming around to talking about how little people are paid in the mainstream industry. And gosh, there's a simple reason for that. Because the mainstream stuff doesn't sell like it used to. A comic is $4, and the money gets split to the creative team, the publisher, the retailer, transportation, and taxes. So if you sell 10,000 units, you have to split that $40,000 a month, and it's obvious to see that if you sold more, you'd have more to split. This is basic math that a child can understand. So you look at the industry and say, "Hey, listen, just sell more comics and you will have more money." You can't pay a member of the team more than they sell. You have to sell more product to the end user. And they explain that they can't sell more. So you look at the content of the comics and you discover why. Because it's woke, anti-white, misandrist, bullshit propaganda. People are not paying for it because it sucks. Then you go back a few decades and they go, representation, bigot! Okay, so everyone needs representation, I suppose. But is it connecting to the audience? Well, not yet. Okay, well, when is it going to connect to the audience? Because if it's not, it's probably the time to go back to, and the thing is, even if they try to go back and turn comics around, I think the ship has sailed. I think you burned out through your original audience. I don't think you're going to, because when you lose the next generation, it's really, really hard to reestablish comics. So at this point, I think it's kind of a done deal. But the thing is, they went chasing this representation, and it's like, so are those people buying your comics? And you look around, who's buying comics? You're like, no, they're not. Anyway, so you go back a few decades and you look at the comics that were selling 10 times as much and compare the modern to the old stuff and explain that the new stuff is just too heavy-handed, that they're pushing this far left-wing, racist, hate-filled agenda. Very clearly, the people who are working on comics now hate European people, but they're trying to sell to European people. Or if they say they're trying to open up the new audience who enjoys this anti-white racism, then clearly the audience hasn't materialized. And eventually, I guess eventually they're not going to run out of money because they're subsidized by their parent companies that have tie-ins to movies. So what's happening with these woke, low-selling comics is that the intendant infrastructure and culture that used to surround comics is dying. So there won't be future generations, and there aren't. This isn't just a low point in an industry. They've killed comics as an industry, And as an industry, I'll say that had cultural importance. All that is over. They'll keep it alive for the IP rights to the movies, but that's it. The infrastructure switched over to manga and games, and the American communist comics have turned out to just be intellectual property rights holders, so they can maintain Zoop, try Comicsgate, maintain the rights to make the movies. Let me get to this guy's comment. Here, his comment is, no, make something that is quality, affordable, accessible to buy. If you don't, I'll buy somewhere else. I'm not going to treat you any differently than any other professional making comics. Yeah, that's a pretty reasonable statement. They got 2 likes on this tweet because this is not the direction they want. This is not what they wanted to hear. They just wanted you to subsidize their propaganda. So the best way to support comics is for the audience, for the comic writers to write comics that find an audience. To say that you need to donate money to the mainstream comic industries so that they can push propaganda is insane. But it shows the juxtaposition and worldview between left and right, because we look at them and say, hey, it's market forces. You went in a direction, you didn't take your audience with you. It's time to change direction. But that's not why they got into comics. The only reason they're there is to push that propaganda. They are woke. This is what they really believe. They really think that every time they make a blonde man bad or Christians bad, that they're being fresh and original, that they're bringing something new to the table, because they don't read other SJW comics. They don't realize that everyone in their industry, that left-wing industry, is doing the exact same storyline. Hey, we're going to do a story about a blonde Christian biker gang in Montana, and the talk show radio host will have a red MAGA type of hat, and he'll be blonde, bald and kind of fat, and he'll be spitting into the microphone, and we'll show the little spit in front of the microphone. He'll be all outraged, and like you get the idea. And the blonde guys will have Norse tattoos and rifle racks and stars and bars on the trucks and beer cans, and literally every cliche that they can possibly think of that has been done to death a million times before. Let me guess, the good guys will be a diverse BLT, pox, walks, purse, puppy, Mary Sue, body diverse, shaved side of the head, punk rock, bullshit, found family cliche. Yes, that's exactly what they do every single time, and they think they're stunning and brave. Oh, a white guy in a tank top who's got a crucifix or a cross and a Peterbilt hat on, boots, and a vaguely crooked cross tattoo. Yeah, yeah. And you can flip through like another dozen comics, like, yeah, we've seen this before. This is not bringing anything fresh. I mean, I'm pulling this stuff out of thin air, out of memory, because I've read thousands of these cancer comics, and the author has no idea that every other pussy, soy boy, panty sniffing pervert writes the exact same story, because they don't read each other's comics. Because, to their credit, I don't blame them. SJWs don't even read SJW comics. They really have no idea how trite, hackneyed, and overused their storylines are. Gee, another skinny punk rock girl in an interracial relationship with the shaved side of her head. Stunning and brave. Oh, hey, look, a blonde-haired Karen. Oh, hey, look, an intolerant blonde-haired man. Oh, hey, a priest doing something abhorrent. Yeah, I've seen that 1,000 times before. You guys, it's hard to not notice. But their entire worldview is that they don't understand why they can't make more money and push propaganda that people don't buy. They really don't seem to solve that equation. They fundamentally not understand that the equations, it's not calculus. It's just that simple. It's just, if you sell more of the comics, you'll have more money to split to do as you wish with it. But it's not just that they write SJW crap that the right wing doesn't buy. Keep in mind, other SJWs don't buy their comics or watch their movies. There should be enough left-wingers to sell either comics or movies. There's been a dozen famously woke movies I mention every time that come out, and they bomb, and you go, so why aren't these movies successful? And they just look at you and because the bigots didn't see it. Yeah, I get that. But the bigots weren't going to see Bros and Charlie's Angels and the X-Woman and the Terminator and Ocean's 8 and Ghostbusters. Yeah, they weren't going to see that. But why didn't the women see that? Why didn't the feminists see it? Why didn't the soy boy, panty sniffing pervert liberal see it? They didn't materialize. How come they didn't see Bros? Oh, the flyover country didn't see it. If the coastal countries, they really are their own countries. If the coastal areas saw it, it would be enough to make money. How come the coastal regions didn't support Bros? How come it lost $30 million? Bigot, Nazi, Hugo Boss says what? Like you really, they really cannot articulate an argument if they couldn't ad hominem and deflect. So doesn't any of this strike them as odd that they're not finding this market? Deep down, they think that they should be subsidized to write this propaganda, that people should somehow be forced to buy it because these SJWs know what is good for the cattle. The idea of them connecting to an audience is abhorrent to them, or merit in general at all. Selling what people are willing to pay for, it terrifies them. They can't even sell to their own audiences. There's no way they can sell to people on the right. So the comics broke me hashtag, you don't get paid more in comics because if you're making I don't know $100 to color a page of a comic because it sells 10,000 issues. Well, just I mean, you say everything extrapolates up, scales up linearly. So if you sold 100,000 10 times, would you say it scales up perfectly? You'd make $1,000 if it increased by an order of magnitude. So there's the math for you. I just did the math for you. You have to sell more of this product to take a bigger percentage or you take the same percentage of the pie, but the magnitude of the pie is larger. So just give people what they want. They look at you like you're crazy because they go, but we're writing this anti-white propaganda and people aren't buying it. Has it ever crossed your mind that perhaps you should stop writing this anti-white propaganda? And it really doesn't, because like that's the only reason they're in comics. It's the only reason Comicsgate was able to spring. People have tried to do crowdfunding comics with some varied success, but Comicsgate is so interesting because it happened on such a relatively large scale. I mean, in terms of comics, it's a small scale, but in terms of an independent movement to sell comics, it's a multi-million-dollar scale. That's not a small scale for like an indie movement. The first comic that got out there was Jawbreakers, and it made $400,000. And then the Black and White Ironside thing did 100,000. And then EVS came out with Cyberfrogs. I don't know how much that made, but probably over $500,000. So that's nothing to sneeze at. And it's like it's been going strong for 5 years, but it's been going strong, and it got such name recognition because the mainstream was full of these Mark Waid's and Gail Simone's and who's that fat girl who wrote America Chavez. It's only because the stuff is so bad that you can make a video showing the America Chavez comics or Ms. Marvel breaking and entering into somebody's home because he's some hacker on 4chan like said words that she disagreed with. She had to violate his constitutional rights. And you can show these comics and go like, this is the mainstream. Now this is the alt comics. So if you still enjoy comics and graphic novels, it's like, well, this is Comicsgate. They're selling something that's not this, not the America Chavez, where like every bad character in every comic of Marvel is going to have blonde or red hair or green or blue eyes. Like it's very close to 100%. That's how obvious it is. And it's like people look at it and go, "Oh, so if I spend $30 to support this new industry, it's like, yeah, it's worth it. Yeah, for sure, it's worth it." Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys all next episode.